Welcome to In Nomine Domini. Each day we share the life of a saint to inspire faith and courage. Subscribe to walk with us on this journey of holiness. Saint David I of Scotland is remembered as one of the greatest kings in Scottish history. He is celebrated as a saint on the 24th of May each year. David was born around the year 1084. He was the youngest son of King Malcolm III of Scotland and Saint Margaret of Scotland. His mother, Saint Margaret, was known for her deep faith and charity. David grew up in a royal family, surrounded by examples of piety and leadership. As a child, David was gentle, intelligent, and thoughtful. He received a strong Christian upbringing from his mother. David's early years were marked by political turmoil. His father and brother were killed in battle when David was still young. After their deaths, David and his mother fled to England for safety. In England, David was educated at the court of King Henry I. He learned about government, law, and the ways of the church. David became close to his sister Matilda, who later married King Henry I. This connection to the English court would shape David's future. David was known for his wisdom, kindness, and sense of justice. He was respected by nobles and clergy alike. David's faith was deep and sincere. He attended Mass regularly and prayed every day. He loved to read the scriptures and listen to sermons. David admired the monastic life and often visited monasteries. He was inspired by the monks' devotion and simplicity. David's life changed when he inherited lands in southern Scotland. He became Prince of Cumbria and later Earl of Huntingdon in England. David married Matilda of Huntingdon, a noblewoman of great virtue. They had a son named Henry, who would become his heir. David's rule as prince was marked by peace and prosperity. He worked to improve the lives of his people. He built churches, monasteries, and hospitals. He encouraged education and the arts. David was generous to the poor and cared for orphans and widows. He believed that a ruler should serve his people with humility. In 1124, David's brother King Alexander I died. David became King of Scotland. His coronation was celebrated with great joy. David ruled Scotland for nearly 30 years. His reign is remembered as a golden age of peace and reform. David introduced many changes to the Scottish Church. He invited monks from England and France to found new monasteries. He established abbeys at Melrose, Holyrood, Jedburgh, and other places. These monasteries became centers of prayer, learning, and charity. David encouraged the spread of the Benedictine and Cistercian orders. He supported the building of cathedrals and parish churches. David worked to bring the Scottish Church into closer unity with Rome. He promoted the use of Latin in the liturgy and supported church councils. David was a friend to bishops and priests. He listened to their advice and respected their authority. He protected the rights of the church and defended its property. David's reforms helped strengthen the faith of the Scottish people. He encouraged the celebration of the sacraments and the observance of holy days. David was known for his personal piety. He fasted, prayed, and gave alms to the poor. He often visited monasteries and spent time in silent prayer. David's court was a place of justice and mercy. He listened to the complaints of the poor and oppressed. He worked to resolve disputes and promote peace. David was a wise and fair judge. He reformed the laws of Scotland to protect the weak and punish the guilty. David's reign was not without challenges. He faced rebellions from nobles who resisted his reforms. He also had to defend Scotland from attacks by neighboring kingdoms. David was a skilled military leader. He led his armies with courage and inspired loyalty in his men. Despite the wars, David always sought peace. He preferred to negotiate rather than fight. He forgave his enemies and welcomed them back when they repented. David's greatest legacy was his love for the church. He gave generously to build and support monasteries. He believed that the prayers of the monks brought blessings to the land. David saw himself as a servant of God and his people. He used his power to promote justice and charity. David's generosity was legendary. He gave away much of his wealth to the poor and to the church. He provided food, clothing, and shelter to those in need. David was a protector of widows and orphans. He made sure that the most vulnerable were cared for. David's devotion to the Eucharist was profound. He attended Mass daily whenever possible. He encouraged his people to receive the sacraments regularly. David's love for the Blessed Virgin Mary was deep. He prayed the Rosary and honored Mary with special feasts. He built churches dedicated to her throughout Scotland. David's humility was remarkable for a king. He lived simply and avoided luxury. He wore plain clothes and ate simple food. He often visited the sick and the dying. He listened to the needs of his people and tried to help everyone. David's kindness won him the love of his people. He was called the saintly king even during his lifetime. Many stories are told of David's miracles. Some say he healed the sick by his prayers. Others tell of how he fed the hungry during times of famine. David's reputation for holiness spread beyond Scotland. People from other countries came to seek his advice and blessing. David was a peacemaker among the nations. He helped settle disputes between Scotland and England. He worked for peace throughout his reign. David's son Henry was his greatest joy. David hoped that Henry would continue his work. Sadly, Henry died before his father. David was heartbroken but accepted God's will. In his old age, David became more devoted to prayer. He spent long hours in the chapel, praying for his people. He prepared for death with faith and hope. David died on the 24th of May, 1153, at the age of about 69. He was surrounded by his family and friends. His last words were prayers for his people and his kingdom. David was buried at Dunfermline Abbey, beside his parents and wife. His tomb became a place of pilgrimage. Many miracles were reported at his grave. The sick were healed, and prayers were answered. The people of Scotland remembered David as a holy king. They told stories of his kindness and miracles. The church recognized David's holiness and declared him a saint. His feast day is celebrated on the 24th of May. Saint David is honored as a model of Christian kingship. He is a patron of Scotland, rulers, and those in authority. His life is an example of faith, justice, and charity. Saint David's reforms changed the Church in Scotland forever. He helped bring the faith to every corner of the land. His monasteries became centers of learning and culture. David's laws protected the poor and promoted peace. His generosity inspired others to give to the Church and the needy. Saint David's devotion to prayer was deep. He began and ended each day with prayer. He trusted in God's guidance in all things. David's humility was a sign of his greatness. He never forgot that he was a servant of God. Saint David's love for the poor was legendary. He gave away his own food and wealth to those in need. He visited the sick and comforted the dying. David's kindness brought hope to many. Saint David's life was marked by miracles. People were healed at his tomb. Prayers for peace and justice were answered. His intercession is still sought by many today. Saint David's legacy lives on in Scotland. His monasteries and churches still stand as signs of his faith. His example continues to inspire rulers and leaders. Saint David I of Scotland, pray for us. Help us to serve others with humility and love. Teach us to seek justice and peace. May your example inspire us to live as faithful disciples of Christ. Saint David, Holy King and servant of God, pray for us. Saint David, friend of the poor, pray for us. Saint David, peacemaker and reformer, pray for us. May your prayers bring us closer to God. May your life inspire us to love and serve. Thank you for joining us as we reflected on the life of this inspiring saint. Their story reminds us that God's grace is always at work, even in the most challenging moments. May their example encourage you to walk your own path with faith, courage, and compassion. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and like in Nomine Domini, so you never miss a moment of inspiration and peace. Together, let's continue to seek holiness, one day and one saint at a time.